Hello Linux lovers, my name's Wimpy, welcome to my world. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, this was originally streamed live on twitch.tv/Wimpy's World, so if you would like to join in these sessions interactively, head over to twitch.tv/Wimpy's World and give us a follow and join in with the rest of the community. Good morning Paul, hello to you as well. How are you doing today? I've reverted back to, I've had my iced coffee this morning and I have now my mug of tea here. Iced coffee definitely order of the day, seeing as though the temperature is up here. Unseasonably warm, I guess. Seasonably warm now. How's everyone doing today? I have a lot of computers scattered about the place here. So today we're going to be taking a look at all of the GPD devices that I've got. I think in total there's 8 of them as I look at the bookcase next to me. I'm going to try and go through all of them with the new builds of Ubuntu MATE 2204. Good morning, hello there. I'll go through each of the devices, we'll take a look at each of them if you've never seen them before. There's definitely some interesting ones here, and there's some more conventional ones in the mix as well. Paul's got a nice cup of oolong. Very, very sophisticated you are, aren't you, with your tea drinking choices. So yeah, I've got them stacked up over here. The first one I've got right next to me, which I'm not actually going to plug in at all, because in the interests of time, we'll skip by this one, which is the very first GPD Pocket device. But we'll take a quick look at it, so as we go through the iterations, we can see sort of how they've evolved over time. Anyone in chat got any of these GPD devices or seen them before? Seen them in the flesh, so to speak? I was a bit slow on the uptake. I think mine took a long time to arrive on the Kickstarter for the first one. But I think most of them are engineering samples that I've been sent by GPD since. I think there's one other that I purchased, but I don't actually remember which one it is. I think I remember, but I'm not certain. Right, well, we will get into it. We'll take a look at the first one of these. So, hey Zeb, good morning. How you doing? Good to see you here. So let's see if we can make all of this work. This is going to be a bit challenging on the streaming logistics front today, but we'll see how we get by. So, oh, that's the first thing. That's the wrong button entirely. So here we go. This is the original GPD Pocket. This is the one that started the whole thing off. So if I put this under the overhead camera, hopefully you can see here, I think its most interesting quality is the keyboard. This was one that I purchased for myself, and I wasn't a huge fan of this, mostly because the keyboard it's not very tactile. These keys wobble around, so actually they're sort of a bit off center. You can strike them and they don't go down. And I think I said on the Ubuntu podcast at the time, when I'd got this, it kind of looked like somebody got all the keycaps and threw them in the air and they just sort of left them where they landed. It's a real unusual mixture. Like, for example, this is Del, not delete, and this is, you know, backspace or, you know, erase up here. So I can't understand why they're that way around, and this is a mistake that I think has been made several times on these styles of keyboard. And then the other thing that frustrates me no end is why is caps here? Why is it here at all? It's like the least relevant key on the keyboard, and tab all the way up here. If it were me, if I would have put tab here. It's much more useful to have in a more conventional spot, and then put like unused keys, pointless keys, up here out of the way. So this is the original one. I don't know if this has got enough juice to turn on, and I don't even know what version of Ubuntu MATE this has on it. It may be a 2004 or something like this, but I'm not going to bother with this one. And the reason is I'm not going to do an install on this one because it's the oldest and slowest of those devices. So it actually takes quite a long time to do the install. It's got the MMC storage and a fairly low powered sort of Atom style processor. But it was pretty well equipped with I/O. So let's see if we can see that there. So we've got obviously USB 3, we've got a Courage port, and USB-C, which we obviously also use to charge the device, and I can't remember if that's mini or micro HDMI out. So, you know, not too bad for what it was, and you can quite easily take this off at the back here, just a few screws, and you can even replace the SSD or the EMC storage. So it was kind of a fun device, and it got them started because at this point they'd just been producing Android-like gaming devices. So that's the original one. That we'll just take a look at that one. I'm going to put this to one side, and then we'll get into actually firing up like the rest of the lineup and see how they evolved from this one. I will say though, the machined aluminium case is excellent quality, and I think it was that alone that kind of made this device so. And also it's a nice size, right? It's not particularly heavy, it feels quite robust, it doesn't flex and bend, so you know, it's good. The keyboard kind of ruined it for me. I'm not sure how I'm going to stack these up as I finish with them. I haven't thought that through. I'll worry about that problem later. So hey Takov, how you doing? So Takov has got a question, so let's just bring that up here. So Takov says, so that would be the one that you start the install midway to test later when it's done. So this one I will test. This is obviously the oldest and most well understood. Its tweaks that are required are the least changing, so I fully anticipate this one will just work. One of the reasons I'm not going to test it here is that it doesn't like the higher capacity USB sticks that I have today, so I'll have to use one of my smaller ones at home to validate this one. But I fully expect that will just work. And talking about testing it, and I was just talking about the tweaks, maybe we should just take a quick look at like what's involved in doing this. So let's just take a look. So we have a build script, and as usual, as purveyors of fine shell scripts, it is indeed a shell script. And this is it here. And what this does is it operates on an existing ISO image. So in this directory here, I think I've got two symlinks. Here they are. So here's the 2004.4 ISO image for Ubuntu MATE, and here's the 2204 ISO image. And it uses that as the ingest, uses those ISO images as ingest. And then we have a helper function here, which is to inject stuff into those images and some cleanup helper functions. So if we scroll down here, what it actually does is we have a bunch of configuration files, basically, which are the device-specific modifications that each of these need. So if we look in the data directory, we'll see that there's a bunch of configurations named by the device that they're appropriate to, and that shell script has like it's like a mix-in sort of design pattern to operate through them. So if we just take a look at some of the examples, these ones are no longer used as it happens, but if we look at the monitor, for example, let's just look at that. So this is for the micro PC, which we'll get to in just a little bit, but that's its configuration for the mode setting driver and the Intel driver to rotate the panel, because all of these, except for one, I think, except for one of them, all of these are basically like repurposed tablet displays. So that you will see as we turn these on, these by default are all orientated that way. The screen is actually top to bottom. So the digitizer for the touch screens, the panels themselves need rotating in all of the places that you reference the screen. So the frame buffer, the mode setting driver, the XORD driver, GDM, the desktop environment. So there's a whole bunch of tweaks. Most of the tweaks is to rotate the touch digitizers, the touch pads, the screens, so that they are all orientated correctly. So that's what most of the configuration changes are dealing with. So let's just see. I saw there was another couple of comments here. So Tackle follows up with, a quick idea. Would it be a good idea to make channel point animations which would only occupy the bottom third of the screen and not take out over the whole screen? Possibly, yes. I have been wondering about that. I've got a whole bunch of... I have a big long list of things that I will be adding at some point to improve the setup. Thanks very much for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, we'll think about how we improve and, you know, tweak these things over time. And hello Yannick, how are you doing? Good to see you again. So yeah, Paul's testing out Safari. So Esme says, silly question. There are no silly questions. Feel free to ask about these devices, because if you've never held one or seen one before, you may have questions. Why do conf and sh files have numbers before them? That's an excellent question, actually, Esme. I will explain. So these are all inserted into different configuration paths, some for Xorg, some for UDEV rules, and so on and so on. And if there's a number in front of them, it's to ensure that these get put into the list of configuration overrides so that they are late in the configuration override process to ensure they are correctly applied. So it's to make sure that these overrides are persistent and don't get overridden by some other configuration which may undo what these are intended to do. So it's basically sort of order of precedence. That's what those numerics are for at the front of the files. Let's have a look here. Let's have a look. What have we got here? Hello, Popey. How you doing? I understand the individual words, but what does that mean? It sounds awesome. So, King Egypt, I'm not sure what you're referring to there, but if you want to elaborate on what it is I didn't explain adequately, let me know and I'll see if I can explain that a bit more clearly. Yeah, he says he's working. Yeah, me too. So, let's have a look. Takov says you won't get to the end of your backlog without delegating your enormous to-do list. Yeah, I'm thinking about how we can, because we obviously cover a lot of projects here and different people get involved in different projects in different ways, and that's fabulous. But I am thinking about like this whole live streaming thing. If I want to, I'm really trying to stick to the Monday, Wednesday, Friday live streams here. And then on Tuesdays is podcasting day. That's when Linux Downtime is produced and recorded. And then Thursdays is Slim DevOps streaming day. So there's every day I'm doing some kind of creating a video or a podcast. And then there's like bits in between where I'm trying to fit in some time to work on the projects and improve the way that the stream is presented. And I might need some help in like improving the stream bit, because as you point out, there's only so much time in the day and the days are too short, it turns out. So right then, I think I've caught up on all of that. So these are the different configuration files. So you can see there's some here for configuring the track points. Track points are very different. In this one here, it was sort of a classic sort of track point nipple. Some of them are optical track points, some of them are track pads. So there's a little bit of different configuration for each of them. And in some cases, I've added some additional tweaks. So this one doesn't have a middle mouse button. So I set the emulation in for double click, double push to be middle. And also if you hold down both and you move the nipple up and down, it simulates sort of finger scrolling and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of like device specific tweaks tucked away in each of those configuration files. So let's have a look here. Kiri Knight says, I'm working and also working on my server at home. Okay, doing GPU pass-through, nice. With your Proxmox server, very good too. And Hikiri, I believe it was you that worked on the GPU pass-through stuff for QuickEmu, something I need to circle back to and make sure is more prominently referenced in the QuickEmu project. Okay. And Takov says GitHub projects could be a solution. Yes, I've been looking at GitHub projects for precisely this. Yes, I am looking at precisely that. I haven't figured out how best to carve things up yet, but I think that's what I'm going to be using, given that most of the software projects are on GitHub. I'm also going to be using GitLab for obviously the Debian stuff. But yeah, I think GitHub projects is where I'm going to land with that. Right, okay, so that's the first one. We'll just park that to one side, and we will get the GPD Pocket 2, which hopefully we'll be able to use, kind of. So, here's the device. Let's just get to the overhead shot. So this was the follow-up. The first thing is this is super stiff, this screen. It does open more or less flat, unlike the first one. And the keyboard, by comparison, is a little bit more spaced out and definitely much more tactile and usable. It has an optical trackpad up here, and the mouse buttons are here and here. And these are the media keys, so volume and brightness and things of that nature, and turning the fan on and off. So this was an improvement, although tab is up here, which I absolutely hate. And this one got it right. This one has backspace here and delete here, and I can't understand how after solving that in this one they then get it wrong again in future devices. But this one's actually quite a nice device. Now the only problem is that I don't have the appropriate HDMI adapter for this one, so I can't actually plug it into the capture device, but we will. So I've got one of the USB sticks prepared with the image flashed on it. So we'll actually start this one up and see if we can get it to go. And it should be 2204 if I've put the right image in the right place. So we'll just bring this power cable down. It's a little bit awkward. Right then. So. Right then, let's see how we go. Oh, and the other thing I need to do is this. So they all have slightly different ways of invoking the boot device selection, which I have documented in here for my own sanity. So this one is function and F12 to get into the BIOS. So oops, that's the wrong one. Let's try. No, that one. Let's try this. So hold that down, function and F12. I think this one's a bit fussy in that, yeah, there we go. So that's brought up the thing. Here's my USB stick. So the first thing you can see about this one is in the BIOS, it actually has an option to rotate the BIOS screen, which I think is the only one that does this. So you can't see very well, but we'll boot off the USB stick. And you can see all of this is correctly orientated. And then as we boot up, the digitizer and everything is now the wrong way round, and the patches that I've put in are actually making sure that all of this is the right way round. And as we can see, we've got Plymouth in the right orientation, and that's flashing and all the rest of it. So this is looking pretty good. And what we're looking for here is these should just work like regular Ubuntu MATE images at this point. They've got the necessary configuration changes in place to correctly configure the hardware. You should just be able to install them and set them up in the usual way. And all of those tweaks and configuration changes are persistent. So once it's installed, all of those tweaks and changes persist into the running system. So let's have a little look here. What have we got? Yeah, so I saw that Yannick and Takov are talking about family time is important. Yes, and that's where most of my time is spent when I'm not on stream. And in fact, today I have a half day. I'm spending the afternoon with my daughter because the weather's great, and we've decided we're going to go and fly drones by the river for the afternoon. So that's what we're off to do this afternoon. Right then. So Hakiri says he's on hiatus with the quick pass-through stuff due to health issues. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Hakiri, and I know how that goes because that was what started my streaming hiatus, was not being well. So yeah, I hope you're feeling better very soon. So here we go. We can see that we're at the usual screen. So what I'm going to do is I've actually tested this before, so we're just going to fast track this. We're just going to say try Ubuntu. In fact, let's try touching the screen. There we go. The touchscreen works. The digitizer's orientated correctly. So we're just going into the desktop. This is the least satisfying one. What we're going to try and do is connect some of the others to the capture device over here and see if we can actually project the screens, because then we can see some of the weird stuff. So there are a couple of messages that have just flashed up, notifications. This is part of my integration. So these screens are 1920 by 1200 and it's a 7-inch screen. And certainly with my eyesight these days, that resolution is absolutely tiny. So what I've injected into these images is fractional scaling. So this is doing a 0.64 scale, which effectively turns this 1920 by 1200 resolution into something that's more like an effective 1280 by 800 resolution, and consequently enough screen space to be useful, but also everything is readable and visible by default. And that's just a simple toggle, so if you don't want that, you can turn it on and off. So that's as far as I'm going to go with this one, because I know it works. We could go and check like the audio is set up correctly, and we can bring up the display. We'll see some interesting stuff. I wonder if I can actually press the right thing. There we go. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pick this up on the camera. I don't even know if I can get close enough with the camera. But the resolution here reads 1200 by 1920, indicating that sort of funky rotation. And here we can see that the rotation has been applied, so it's rotated to the right. But as you can see, the digitizer works, so all of these things are correct. So we're going to consider this one good, and then we'll move on to the next one and try and hook it up to the capture devices as well. So how do I do that? Let's see if I can drive this. There we go. I've lost the mouse.
Thank you for the follow, ITS Toxic QT.
Thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome to the stream. Right, so we'll bring this one down. This one's good to go. That image is definitely going to be fine. We'll shut that down. Disconnect the power, but keep it handy because we're going to use the same power for all of them. Put that one to one side. So far that's the Pocket 1 and the Pocket 2. Oh, and I suppose, so this one just has USB-C for power and USB 3, and then another USB 3, which I'm obviously using to boot from, a Courage port and a micro SD. So this one doesn't have any HDMI directly. You have to do it through the USB-C, which is obviously a little bit of a downside, given that that's also the power. So you can't plug in an external monitor unless you are not on power at the time. So not as good in terms of sort of ports and connectivity and what have you. These are my opinions of these devices, just having used them and, you know, bumped into some of the limitations and what have you. Right then. Let's thank you, Yannick, for encouraging people to like, follow, subscribe, smash that like button, do all of those internet things. I appreciate that. Hey, Intoxic Cute, is that how we're pronouncing that? Arch and something, a window manager for the win. I used to be an Arch Linux developer, by the way. Internet law requires me to tell you that. Right then, let's get the next device. This is the GPD Micro PC. This is an interesting device for a number of reasons. This is a very early engineering sample. So let's take a look here. So I got this one months and months ahead. So the case is borderline 3D printed, and the actual hardware specifications are slightly different from the production units. But this is a fascinating little device. It's really small. And this was designed for network admins. And this was one of the reasons why GPD got me this device early, because they knew that Linux enthusiasts, Linux users, Linux sysadmins would want one of these. Very small device, definitely pocketable. So it's a trackpad, mouse buttons here. It's even got a center click. I can't remember if it's a touchscreen or not. I don't think it is. We'll check that. This is, a bit like those QWERTY keyboards you used to get on slider phones in the past. So it's functional, but certainly not something you want to type on. It's really designed to be held like, what were those phones called? Held like a BlackBerry, used like a BlackBerry. But its interesting features are, well, Courage port on the front here. When we get around the side, we've got USB 3 and micro SD. But then on the back, we have a full Ethernet port, Type-C for power, another USB 3 and another USB 3, HDMI, full HDMI, and then a serial port. And the point of this was, if you're doing device configuration like Cisco routers and things like that, then it's got everything you need to connect to whatever device that you're potentially configuring in the data center. So small, reasonably powerful, and they expected that Linux users would be interested in this, which is why I got this one so very early in the process. So we'll plug in get a regular HDMI cable. I think I've got a small one. Here we go. We'll see if we can actually get this to display. I've never tried this before, so I actually don't know if this is going to be a massive fail or if it's going to work, but we will try. So I need to refer to my thing here. So this is the Micro PC. So this is function F7 to get this one to come on. So let's do, I literally don't know if this is going to work. So we'll turn it on and, oh, actually it would help if I plug the power in. Where did I put the power? Here it is. So power in there. Let's try this again. Right. So turn it on and function F7. Oh, I can't find F7 quick enough. Function F7. Let's have a look. Let's see if this comes up. There we go. Yeah, something's working. Okay. So we're seeing. This is curious, in fact, because if I move to the overhead view, so I can see we've got some new people joining. So let me explain. So Vincey Too Fast says, "What are you doing here?" Hello, my name's Wimpy. I do all sorts of Linux projects, and what I have here is 8 different GPD ultra small form factor PCs. And I've made bespoke images of Ubuntu MATE 2204 for each of them that does all the different hardware enablement and digitizer and screen rotations and things of that nature. So I'm going through testing each of them to make sure they work. And
thank you for the follow in formatting.
Welcome to the stream. Thank you for the follow. Going through each of them to make sure they're all working correctly, but also explaining some of the quirks of each of these devices. So if we go to the overhead view, you can see here that the BIOS screen is actually rotated here correctly, but through the HDMI, it's actually rotated the wrong way. So that is my USB boot device. So we'll try booting off this and we'll see what we get. And at this point, that's weird because now it's correct. It's correct here on the capture device, but rotated incorrectly So I've never tried this before, so this is quite interesting for me. But it's rotated incorrectly here, which is something that you can't work around. You can't influence grub in that way. So yeah, interesting. So we'll move on here. We'll say try or install, and we'll see what we get. I've literally never done this before, so you know, it could fail hard. It could be that the capture device is not going to be correctly rotated at all for any of this, and it might be a massive fail. So I see there were some other questions. Let me see if I can catch up with one of those, some of those then. Okay, so It's Toxic Cute says he's been using Arch since forever, so a long-time Linux user. So you're among friends here. Although, hey, that's encouraging. So although I'm working almost exclusively with Ubuntu here, although I am going to be branching out. Well, I work on Ubuntu and Debian, a little bit with SUSE, not so much. And I'm going to be doing more with NixOS in the future as well. But I have a number of projects that I'm working on. There's lots of distro stuff here. So if you like a bit, if you like a bit of Linux, you're in the right place. So I think what I've got here, I'm not quite sure what this is. It's like these screens are stretched across each other, because I can see part of it here, but I'm just curious to see what this looks like, because I've never done it before, and we'll see what the display comes back as to whether it's treats it as like a single thing or whether it's mirrored or whatever. So we'll see what we get. At least something is being captured. The internal panel on this one is 1280 by, I think, either 800 or 720. We'll find out in just a moment. And that obviously means that for this small, because it's only, I think, a 5-inch screen, so, you know, not much bigger than a sort of a large smartphone. Let's see if we can bring up the display preferences. Here we go. So the captured, oh, I see. So they've overlapped. Oh, I'm using the wrong thing entirely. So the capture device is here. There we go. So the capture device is here and is full HD. And then this is the internal panel here. So if I just apply that. Okay, keep this configuration. There we go. That makes a bit more sense now. So, okay, I understand what I'm looking at now. That makes more sense. Okay, so this works quite well, actually. So let's think about some of the things that we would be interested in on this device. We've obviously looked at the screen. It's correctly rotated. I can see it here, as we can here as well. So all of this is present and correct. And this is what I expected. This doesn't require too much in the way of special configuration other than just rotating digitizers and things. Did it have a touch screen? No, it did not. I didn't think it did. This was a relatively inexpensive device, so I'm not surprised to remind myself that it doesn't have a touch screen. So let's I'll just bring up some of the chat here. So I'm going to call this one good. I'm not going to do a full install. That's just wasting some time to put it on the disk. I did go through this on a couple of them yesterday. So let's just catch up with thank you for those of you that are helping to explain what's going on here for newcomers, and welcome everyone that's new here for the first time. Thank you for stopping by. Okay, yes, so a lot of you have helped explain what's going on here. FX boy, hello mate, how you doing? This is all your fault. This is where it all started, isn't it? So FX boy forever is in chat. He and I met at an OG camp in, I don't know, 2016, maybe 2017, something like that. And I think you were the first person I knew who got the original GPD Pocket. And this is where all of this madness started. It's literally all your fault over a conversation in a beer at the end of that OG camp that led me to get one. And then subsequently it kind of snowballed from there. So welcome back. It's good to see you again. Right then. So King Egypt says you're intrigued by my SUSE project. I'm not going to recap that. I did a planning stream, which is now on YouTube, so youtube.com/Wimpy's World, where I talk about what that overlap with SUSE is going to be. But that's to help bring desktop Linux to German municipalities. It's an actually government-sponsored project, and I'm not deeply involved with that, but I am lending some help and assistance to it. Right then. So Takov also used to be a diehard Arch user. Let's see. Zeb has this to say. Do you think MATE will ever support 240Hz refresh rate monitors? Easily. It should do. I shouldn't see why not. Why doesn't it support that now? I know that I've got... Well, this is 100Hz. I know it supports 100Hz here. That's the fastest monitor I have. I've got one here that's 100Hz, one at home that's 120. Those both work. Is it a driver related? I mean, I'm only using NVIDIA on those machines. I don't know if it's a driver related thing. Not an area of expertise of mine, but I'd be interested to learn more. There's lots of questions. What was this? So it's only a Gnome says, it's been a while since I was messing about with my Pocket 2, but I did find a useful command line for rotating Grub and Plymouth. Yes, that's effectively what my build scripts do, is inject all of those configuration options into all of the places where they persist. Yannick also points out that 144Hz does work, so interesting. I know Yannick has a fancy screen, so there we go, Zeb. Perhaps it's working just fine. Broken Robert says, I used to use Arch Linux, by the way. So what do you use now if you're not using Arch? Clearly a distribution where you're not obliged to tell us what you're using. It's all the Arch memes. Nice one, Esme. I installed Arch once, by the way. Well done. Did you use the wiki, or did you do it by the magic of super user powers? Okay. It should be multi-monitor. You can do mixed refresh rates with X11, so... Well, I think I'm more or less at the end of the questions there. Okay. Yeah, so we eclipsed 1,000 followers, which thank you to all of you that followed. So I'm going to unplug this micro PC. We're going to move on to the next device in the chain, which actually shares some similarities with this device. And it's the first of the gaming devices. So this is the GPD Win Max. It's about the same size as that micro PC. If we put them side by side, you can see they're quite similar. And this one also has one of those sort of, QWERTY slider style keypads. Again, not a keyboard you'd want to type an essay on or even an email, but for putting your details into games and things, it's fine. But you'll obviously notice that this has a Xbox style controller here. So there's two analog sticks, a D-pad, the ABXY buttons. This toggle here, I don't know if the camera will pick that up. Maybe it will. You can see there that toggles between using it as a mouse and using it as a keyboard. So we'll demonstrate how all of this functions. And then around the back here, so we've got all of the shoulder buttons and what have you. So 3 shoulder buttons, Type-C for power, Courage port, SD card for storage expansion. I can't remember. What are these ones called? Is that mini or micro HDMI? I forget which is which. And also it has an accessible SSD bay, so you can remove that screw and upgrade the SSD. So this is quite a compact little gaming orientated device. So we'll switch out the HDMI cable for one that will hopefully fit. And again, I have never tried plugging this one in to the capture device before, so I really don't know what to expect. We'll give it a go. So let's plug that in there. Plug this over here. This is a Magewell USB capture device. They are very expensive, but they are very compatible with all sorts of unusual resolutions and what have you. So ideal if you've got a real mixed bag of devices that, you know, spit out. I've got a load of retro devices. This is the only thing that can reliably pick up the weird resolutions and what have you. So I've got that there. So we'll go back to my docs and have a look and see what this one needs. So this is the, I think this is the Win 2. Yeah, and this one's a bit unusual. So this doesn't have a specific boot off this device. You have to go into the BIOS and then it will list bootable devices and then you say boot off it. So it's a feature of their gaming orientated devices. And again, I think this is a 1280 by 800. It might even be 1200 by 720 display. I don't think it's touch, but we'll find out. And this test, again, I'm going to boot off the live image, but we'll actually test and make sure that the controller feature works. That was actually something that in the early days required patches to the kernel to pick up the device correctly. It's long since been in the kernel, so it has worked reliably for years now. So we've got power, and I've got to do Dell. So we'll do here for the moment. In fact, let's do the capture screen. So if anything does appear on screen, we'll see it. I will see it in both places. So turn the device on. Trying to, at least. Where is Dell? Oh, there it is. This was, oh, there it goes. Did I miss it? It appeared momentarily, but oh, there we go. Here we go. Something's happening. Let's see if we can capture the. There it is. Okay. So again, a bit like the last one, what I can see on the screen in front of me is correctly orientated, but the screen on the capture device is incorrectly orientated. So we'll go down here. Oh. It's not seeing my my device. I wonder if this is because this is a 256 gig disk and it doesn't see that size. Or okay, we'll unplug that and plug it again and see if we can get it to see it. This was working yesterday, but maybe it was for a different sized stick. Let's just try restarting that. Gosh, that's really difficult to do. Control Alt Delete. Can I even do that? Yeah, there we go. Let's see if we can get this to register. Turn the device sideways. I mean, technically, I suppose I could do something to rotate these in OBS, but we're seeing what it would present. You know, if you were to plug this into. It's not wanting to see that that thing. So I wonder if one of these is 128 meg, and I could refresh it. Okay. Well, let's see if either of these is 128 meg, and we'll refresh. If it is. So, oops, that's the wrong screen. Right then, let's have a little look here. No, that's a 256 gig one. Let's see this one. There we go, there's a 128 gig one. So let's see if we can restore a disk image, and let's go and choose development, and this is the Win 2. No idea if this is going to resolve the issue, it's just a hunch. And now you'll see why I use these things. So these are Corsair GTXs. These are basically SSDs in a hardened metal USB shell. You can see they are very, very fast. And that's why I use them, because when you're testing lots of images like this, you really need something that moves at a speed. Yes, oh balls indeed, Yannick. Let's see how this works. So there we go. That was 3 gig that just copied to that USB stick there. So this is why I use these. Turnaround time is quite quick. So we'll unplug this one. It is in the device currently. He says unplug it. It's actually putting up a bit of a fight. There we go. And we'll plug this one we just flashed, which is 128 gig, and we'll hope that this is going to make all the difference in the world. Let's see how we go. Let's try Control-Alt-Delete again. There it is, and let's see if we can get this thing to see the device. I definitely booted this one yesterday using one of these sticks. There we go. Let's see. Huh. No, it is absolutely not seeing it. Well, that's weird. Oh, I'm being an idiot. Look. I'm in the wrong screen entirely. It was here. Here all along. It's that one. Okay. It would have worked. I was just in the wrong place. Let's try this one. There we go. Okay, so we're now booting off this, he says. I've forgotten how to do this. Let's refer to my own documentation. What does it say? Press that. Navigate to the save and exit and choose the stream. Yeah, okay. It isn't actually appearing in the right place. It should be here. Oh, there it is. There it is. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I was being dim. It was off the bottom of the screen and I couldn't see it. So we'll see if it comes up on the capture device. It is coming up on the capture device again. Is it going to boot off this thing? I'm looking at the screen. Something's happening. There we go. Gosh, okay, that was fun. So that was off the screen. I didn't realise you had to scroll down farther to see it. Right, so this is coming up. Let's just see what questions that we have here. So hydrate. I do have water up there. More importantly, I have tea here. So this is probably doing something similar where it didn't boot off the USB stick at all, did it? Given that this is obviously my password is test, by the way. So this is what I installed yesterday by the looks of it. Oh no, it's actually 2110, so this is from last time round when I was testing things. So what I'm doing here, if I just go to the overhead view. Well done, Paul. I'm using the this thumbstick is moving the mouse pointer, and then the shoulders are the mouse clicks. And this design is okay, except that you can't use a mouse and a trackpad at the same time. So as soon as you do this, there's no controls. So in some games this can be a bit limited because you've got no mouse capability, and even like on the desktop, like for example, let's do this. Let's go to the capture screen. Let's bring up the display and make this sensible. So again, you can see that this has arranged things in a peculiar... What's this? Is that it? I think that'll do. So let's do apply. So we've now got... We'll keep that configuration. So let's bring up a terminal and bring that up onto the screen that you can see, which hopefully I can do. Oh, where is it? Why is that? Oh, it's that side. Okay, that was weird. There we go. So here's a terminal. Let's make that a bit bigger. So, gosh, Control Shift Plus is a bit of a tricky one to hit. There we go. So if we, gosh, this is where, you know, this keyboard, you can say, you know, you can make things appear on the screen, but it's not like good for long-term use. My password is test. There we go. So we'll just do an update, and then what we'll do is we'll install JS test. So Takov says that HDMI that I was inquiring about is mini HDMI. This is the Chelsea cucumber, taken from the colour accents in Ubuntu MATE. So King Egypt says retro home for the GPD Win 2 and 3. Maybe. Definitely a PC build of some sort, yes. And it is easy to install Ludo on these devices, and I tend to do use them for game emulation, you know, of retro consoles and stuff. Right. I'm just scrolling back through the comments here, so I make sure I try and catch up as much as I... Hey Tyler, how you doing? Have I used Ventoy yet? I'm familiar with Ventoy, but no, I haven't used it. I don't need to do that. I mean, maybe it would be useful for one of these to have all of those GPD ISOs on one stick. So that's a really good idea for that. So maybe that is something I can do in the future, is talk about Ventoy and get all of the GPD things on a single thing to make the testing easier. That's a great idea. Thank you. I will make a note of that. In fact, it's such a good idea. I'm going to put that in my notes for things I need to do in the future. So I'm doing Ventoy with all the GPD ISOs. Thank you. That's in my notes. That is going to happen now. Right then. I see some of you are still discussing high refresh rate monitors. So let's try this. Sudo apt. Gosh, I mean, this is like pecking out on the thing. Install. Again, I think this is really designed to be held like this. If we go to the overhead view, I think it's obviously really designed to be held and used like this. So, you know, me having it on the desk like this is kind of not what's intended. Install, and then we'll do JS test. Where's hyphen? Here, it's here. This is quite... The layout of this is at least sensible. So we'll just install that, and we'll kind of demonstrate... well, first of all, that the controller works. I realise this is the older version. For whatever reason, I couldn't boot off that stick. I'll figure that out after the fact. So JS test. Oh dear. Oh, I'm not connected to Wi-Fi. Okay. So I need to go over here to here. So I will just do this very quickly. There we go. Right.
Thank you for the follow, Davely37.
Thanks for the follow and welcome to the stream. There we go. Right, we're connecting to Wi-Fi. We are connected to Wi-Fi. So let's do update. My password is test, by the way. There we go. That's a bit more like it. Impish. Yeah, so that's 2110, isn't it? Which is probably EOL very soon. And then we'll install this. Go. There we go. And then we'll run it. Come on, chop chop. Oh, it didn't couldn't find it, could it? Because it wasn't installed before. So there we go. That's painful doing that. Right, so as you can see, because it's in mouse mode, it doesn't show up. So what I'm going to do is now flip the switch. I flipped the switch, but it doesn't show up automatically. You have to go and refresh. So now I'm using tab on the keyboard because I can't use the mouse. And there's the controller. So now I'm tabbing over again because I can't use the mouse because there is no mouse. It's a game controller now. And then when I go into the properties, you can see here that all of these things now work. So this is, it's good. It's all there. But if you need mouse and controller at the same time on this device, a wireless mouse is definitely essential, in my opinion. So we've sort of taken a look at that one. I'm going to just quickly try and reboot it and see if we can get it to boot off that stick. I would like to see it come up with 2204 if possible. Come on, go off. How long do we have to hold down the power for this to realise I really want it to turn itself off? Don't think about it, just do it. Doesn't look like that's a capability this device has. There it is. Okay. So let's turn it on again. There we go. So let's go to override down here. There it is. Corsair. There it is. Okay, so this is going to run off 2204 now. So on the screen here now, everything is inverted correctly on the actual device in front of me. The capture device will be different. That's curious, isn't it? So I might have to loop back to that and think about, well, what are the device names for the external devices and how do you make sure that they're orientated correctly? Because if you plug this into your telly, oh no, it's fine at this point. It's only the frame buffer that's wrong. I might look into that. I'm not sure, but could rotate the frame buffer of the HDMI output so that it's correctly orientated. So yeah, exactly. So King Egypt makes a good point. Yeah, it's very much like a BlackBerry keyboard. So we'll choose, we've got the, woo, I've managed to change the language. Oopsie. There we go. That was almost fatal. Oh, I've done it again. How am I doing that? There we go. Right, try. Don't change the language again, please. Right then. What I like about Twitch chat is that if you type a real password like the thing, it auto converts it. Huh. How do you know? How do you know that? That's curious. I feel like that's a bit odd. I don't need to hash my password out because my password is always test. So let's have a look here. So FX Boy says, as long as you're not giving going in your notes for things to make someone else talk. Yes, that is what I did to you, isn't it? I kind of volunteered you to give a talk about the original Pocket, and then did turn up for it, as I remember. That's odd camp for you. Right then. Let's have a look here. So King Egypt says, if you have an old SSD, grab a USB caddy and slap Ventoy images on it. Yes, although these that I'm using, some of them are 256 gig, which is that's like 10 distros worth. So I would be able to get all of the GPDs on one of these using Ventoy. But I do have what you've described because of my retro devices. So this that looks like a NES cartridge is actually an SSD, and yeah, you can plug that in there. So I have one of those as well. Right, okay, this is fine. So I've taken a little look here at the Win 2. We'll get rid of that one now, and we'll move on with the next devices, which is quite an interesting one. And goodness, I don't quite know what that other one's going to do in terms of how the output's going to work to the capture device, because it has a very large internal panel resolution. So let's see how we get on. We'll move on to the next device though. Let's go back here. So that's the pile of tested devices. This is the next one. This is one of my favorites. So this is the GPD P2 Max, and this is very much a sort of looks like a miniature MacBook. So this is the device. Touchpad with clickable areas, webcam there, the power button and fingerprint reader. The fingerprint reader absolutely is not supported by Linux. Quite a well spaced out keyboard. I wish tab and caps lock were inverted. And I like the fact that, you know, backspace is the default feature of that, and it's function backspace for Dell. So this is quite a usable keyboard, and the internal panel on this one is 2560 by 1440, I think. So this is it's either 9 or 10 inch display with a very high resolution panel. So you can enable full 2x scaling. Courage port and USB 3 around that side. USB 3 here, and USB-C for power and what have you. And also, I think we've now agreed this is micro HDMI. So we're going to try and hook this one up and see what we get. Now this one requires the least amount of modifications. So the thing that is special about this one is the high DPI internal panel. So the modifications for this are purely, and everything is orientated in the right way. So the only modifications to this one are to double the font size of the console, so that if you go into the console it's readable, and to enable high DPI scaling by default. Let's just take a look at what the special keys are for this one. So this is function F7 to get to the boot menu. So let's go to the capture screen. We'll turn this device on. How do I know when it's on? I think it's powering up now. Function F7. Is that on? There, yeah, there's something on screen. It's orientated correctly. Oh my gosh. So this is a much more like a conventional computer. What you're seeing in the capture screen is exactly what I'm seeing in front of me here. So we're going to boot off our SSD, our USB stick, and this is all just working like a regular computer. So the only thing that we should see that I've changed is, in fact, yeah, it all moves so quickly it's kind of irrelevant, but it's all just working. Be interesting to see what we see on this panel, because I don't know if the panel output is like full HD or the same as sorry, if the HDMI output is the same as the internal panel or not, but I guess we'll figure that out. So FX Boy says, I'm sorry, but Chelsea Cucumber just sounds like something Wimpy's World would make Pope dip after free conference drinks for entertainment of others. So Chelsea Cucumber, so you can see the Ubuntu MATE colour scheme behind you. The Ubuntu MATE colour, the green, is if you put it into one of those colour pickers that doesn't just give you the like RGB or hexadecimal values, but also gives you like a written English word for the colour. The Ubuntu MATE colour is Chelsea Cucumber, so that's what Chelsea Cucumber is all about. Although Paul, who I think is still here, did make a Chelsea Cucumber mocktail, and here it is. In fact, this is the pinnacle of Chelsea Cucumbering right now. Right then. Yeah, so the P2 Max, on the screen next to me here, I am seeing, in front of me, I am seeing the full thing. So which way is, here it is. So the external panel, I think, is 1080p. But the scaling, because this is X11, is across all devices. So I would be able to install this on the internal panel just fine. What I'm doing now is bringing up the try feature. Everything, at this point, I know it's working. It's doing what I intend it to do. I can see the full desktop here, and if I just bring up a terminal, I should be able to bring that over to one of these screens here. Here we go. This is all just working great, and the keyboard is really nice on this one. This is a very usable machine. Let's bring up here, hang on, just go back there. I think I can bring up the specs and drag that over. So what are we looking at here? This is 16 gigs of RAM, and 128 gig SSD by default. And again, this one was quite easy to replace the SSD. I've not done it, but 16 gigs is very usable. It's not the fastest CPU, but it has the benefit that when this is a fully charged laptop, let me just see if I don't think I've got any battery stats. No, it's actually quite low. The battery lasts for like a comfortable 10 hours or so. So this is a really nice laptop if you want something that you want to connect to other places where you can get work done. This is a great laptop for that. And if I just bring up the display, the display settings, I think we'll be able to see here. There we go. So this is the internal panel that's running at 2560 by 1600. There we go. So that's what it is. And we've obviously got that at 200% scale. And then because we're using X11, we can only use X11, the external HDMI is also scaled at 200%. So yeah, you can obviously... Well, let's find out what the capture device makes of this. Let's do that. So there we go. So now the scaling is turned off. So now you're seeing the external panel at the full 1080p. And again, this is now basically unreadable on the on here. It's so small. I can't act from this distance. Admittedly, my eyes are getting worse by the day, but I can't actually read any of the text in the panels on that resolution. But this one's working. It's doing exactly as I intended. So we'll hard power that one off and we'll move on to the next device, which is interesting. In fact, it's one of the newer devices. So let's just wait for this to go off. So yeah, the SSDs certainly help with these. It's an expensive, noisy fan with a free keyboard. What's that? What's this? The P2 Max. I've not noticed the fans in any of these particularly. The fans are tunable in most of these devices. I've not had to do that. So this one is one of my favorites for taking away. So I usually have to back this one up when I do these tests, which is why I didn't do an install just then, because I've actually got stuff on there that I use. So it's now time for the Pocket 3, which is the newest device that I have from GPD, and the one that I was doing the enablement for on streams in January time. So let's take a look at this one, because this one really ticks all the boxes, I think. So let's look at the overhead view. So here's the device here. So there's a few things to note. First of all, you can go fully flat, and it's an articulated screen, so it goes into tablet mode. So for this one, I wrote a digitizer and screen accelerometer driver, so that as you rotate the screen and what have you, it automatically rotates the screen, because this also comes with a stylus pen, at which I brought the box with me, but the pen's not in it, so I need to go and have words with my daughter later to find out where that pen has got to. She loves these digital pen things. So it's got 3 buttons and a trackpad. This is the power button and fingerprint reader. Again, there is absolutely zero support for the fingerprint reader in Linux. We have a Courage port, USB 3, USB 3, full HDMI, and USB-C. And then this is also its party trick, I think, here. Full-size Ethernet. And then this piece here is a replaceable module. By default, it comes with a USB 3 port, but this is an HDMI capture device. So yesterday I installed this, and I think this is rather nice because it's got a webcam built in. I was thinking this could be a mobile streaming system, because there's a webcam here and a HDMI capture device here and Ethernet, and it also has Wi-Fi as well, Wi-Fi 6, and it's Gen 11 Intel CPU, so quite performant for what it is. So I thought this could be sort of an on-the-go streaming and podcasting machine. I haven't tested that theory yet. I nearly did when I went to Valencia a few weeks ago. I did take it with me, but it turned out the conference Wi-Fi wasn't up to the job, so we didn't bother trying. But I think this could be, you know, a good device. So we've got this plugged in. We need full-size HDMI this time. And again, this has all of the screens are the screen and the digitizer is all rotated in the wrong way by default. So this has a whole bunch of modifications to make all of this stuff work reliably. And in actual fact, this one will require some additional work because, for reasons I don't fully understand at the moment, the rotation of the touchscreen digitizer is not in sync with the screen rotation anymore. So as the screen rotates, the digitizer, the touch digitizer, is inverted. I need to fix that, so I will tinker with that over the weekend and get that right. So that's gonna, sadly, this device and also the other device I was going to look at is going to hold this whole project up by a couple of days, because I need to get this this stuff working properly. So let's just take a look at what the Pocket 3 is. Function F7. Oh, we need power. So let's up here. Yeah, there we go. So let's see if we can turn this on and get everything going. So turn you on, and I'm there. I've got something on the screen here. I'm now doing my best to bring up the, oh, it missed it. It didn't capture it. So this is booting off whatever's installed. As you can see, it booted quite quickly. What was I doing wrong there? I was pressing the wrong button entirely, is what I was doing wrong there. So I was actually pressing function and 7, which is F8. So we'll just shut this down and we'll try that again. There we go. So let's turn it on again. And let's try pressing function and 6, which is F7 apparently. There we go. So we've got a boot screen. Let's see what this looks like. So that's not being displayed on the capture device, but I do see my selection for a boot device here. So I'm going to choose my USB stick and we'll see. So interesting, nothing's being displayed on the output here at the moment. So I'm now choosing boot Ubuntu MATE. And now we see something. So it's not until the frame buffer initializes that you see any output on this device. And let's catch up with some. Let's have a look. What have we got here? There's a new, yes, there is. So King Egypt points out that there's a new model of the P2 Max, and actually this is something I now need to update the Ubuntu MATE website for, because the P2 Max, I think I've got the, I'm going to say the 2019 version, and I think there's a 2022 version, and they're quite different, and I don't know if the modifications that I'm making are going to be complete for the new version, so I'm going to need to label specifically which generation of the devices. And I think it's the same for another device I have down here, which we'll get to in a minute, which is the Win Max. I think there's 3 versions of the Win Max, and I have the earliest version. So yeah, I have asked GPD if they can supply some of the other devices, but I've not heard from them. And then also, you mentioned this, the Pentium Silver N6000. That's a chipset that's available for the Pocket 3. Don't get that one if you intend to run Linux on it, because the sound chipset that's in that device is absolutely not supported by Linux. So yeah, don't get that one if you want to run Linux. And no, none of the fingerprint readers are Linux compatible in these devices. There are discussions in the upstream projects about potentially enabling them, but last time I looked into this, there was no specifications available from the biometric manufacturer, which is becoming more common. The biometric devices are releasing those specifications less frequently now, in order to have security by obscurity. So yeah, so they have to be reverse engineered. Okay, FX boy, see you. Okay, so this has come up. We'll just select try. So this is going to be, I think, a bit like the others where we've got these 2 output displays slightly overlapped. So we'll go into the display settings and align them, and we'll see what we can. Oh, in fact, that looks quite close. So let's bring up, they're overlapping slightly. Oh. What's going on here? There we go. Right, so yes, as you can see, so this is this MGW22 is the capture device, what you're seeing on the screen there, while this DSi1 is the internal panel. So the internal panel is running at over here is running at 1900 by 1200, but of course it's being rotated. And then the display capture is running at 1900 by 1080. So I think, although this might not look right, I can do that. And I could apply those, and then if I did this, I would actually have an orientation which is what I have in front of me, which is the laptop beneath and then the other one above. That kind of works, I suppose. We'll keep it and then just change the top one back to that and stick them on top of one another. Then at least they're the same width. There we go. There we go, that works. Keep this configuration. So,
thank you for the follow,
this
Chipacator.
device works just fine. Some of the things that you have to do on this one is the audio DSP needs bringing up in legacy mode. It doesn't work with open sound firmware just yet. Thank you thank you for the raid. That never happens, and also I'm utterly unprepared for it. So, welcome to the raiders. Who was that raided here? I'm new at this. Thank you very much. Hello raiders, welcome. So let me explain what we're doing here.
Thank you for the
hello,
follow,
I'm
7
Wimpy.
ILT3D.
And I work on a whole bunch of Linux projects. So what we're doing here at the moment is I've gone through a whole range of these ultra small form factor GPD devices that I have. So there's a whole bunch of them here. Some of them are
Thank you for the follow,
gaming
Joao
handheld
Gomez
devices, and then this one here is a more complete sort of two-in-one type device.
Thank you for the follow. Himmy name is Garch.
Thank you very much. And so my word, thank you. This has never happened
Thank
before.
You for the
this
follow, Tamagotchi _ Tyler.
Brand new ground for me. Thank you everyone. Thanks for stopping by. So this is a two-in-one, and it's also got capture devices for HDMI and stuff. So what we're doing is we're making sure that the custom builds of Ubuntu MATE that I've made for each of these is working correctly with all the hardware enablement.
Follow MDG Dev.
So is that Star Trek mouse? Star Trek? How very dare you? Star Wars. It's Star Wars.
Thank you for the follow, Penguin 518.
So this whole room is, in fact, you can see Darth Vader behind me. It's not just Star Wars. This whole room is Empire themed.
Thank you for the follow.
So yeah, you can see the Trooper keyboard, the Trooper mouse. Oh, I think I've just lost audio. Oh no.
Thank you for the follow, Steve Brorick Zipfast.
There we go. I haven't lost audio at all. So yeah, everything here is Empire related.
Thank you for the follow, Star _ Ansible.
Wow, this is astonishing. This has never happened. Thank you for whoever raided. I'm absolutely terrible. I haven't got raid triggers set up or anything. So thank you for the raid. I appreciate that. I will look back after the fact and go and find your channel. But what were you doing prior to coming here? Because this is all desktop Linux stuff here at the moment. But we also do Raspberry Pi projects, and we also do a whole bunch of Linux tools and utilities and hypervisor stuff and container stuff here as well. So Star Ansible raided. Okay, thanks Seb, thank you. And also Star Ansible, thanks very much for the raid. I really appreciate that. That's fantastic. So you're doing startup work, web dev. Okay, cool. Okay, but someone recommended... Oh, well, thank you. Whoever put that recommendation in, I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you for the follow, Dungeoneer 3.
Good with the trolls. Yeah, we'll manage. We'll manage. We'll see how we get on. So if you're a startup and doing web dev, I also stream for work on another channel here, and that's Slim DevOps. So twitch.tv/Slim DevOps, and what we do there is all container optimization, low friction, building faster, secure containers. So take your containers and make them 30 times smaller and faster and all sorts of stuff. So if you head over there, if you're interested in that sort of stuff, and Slim AI, the company I work at, it is a startup as well. We've only been around for about a year now. So yeah, may have something in common there. I will look up your channel after and have a proper poke around. So thanks for introducing yourself. Right then. So this device is by far and away the most interesting, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this effectively, but if we tilt that way, there we go. We can see that the screen did rotate as I did that, and that's the little driver that I wrote to do the screen rotation. It's difficult to demonstrate this on account of all of the cables that are plugged into the laptop, but hopefully you can see the screen is rotating there. And like I say, I've just got a little bug where the touchscreen digitizer is not rotating correctly with the screen, and the digitizer is getting inverted. So that's a bug I definitely know I need to fix on this device. But this is a fab device, but it is rather spendy. I'm fortunate, in fact, this was an engineering sample for me to do the hardware enablement. Yeah, it's great if you can afford it. And as I was saying, for those of you that hear from Twitch, what you may be interested in is this has got an expansion port on the back here that comes with a USB 3 port by default, a serial port if you're a network administrator and you want to configure your Cisco routers, but it also comes with this here, which is an HDMI capture device. So HDMI capture and Ethernet, a built-in webcam. So this is a very small device that I think could be a viable on-the-go streaming device. So, and in fact, this was an obvious thing. You see, I closed the lid, and if I just wait a second and open it, the screen is black and then comes on. That was something that didn't work by default, and is part of the hardware enablement I had to do for this device to make sure that it wakes up from suspend correctly. So this was quite a lot of work, this one. It was about a week's worth of work to get it all working. And other than that slight bug with the digitizer not inverting correctly, this one's kind of done. So I think what we'll do is we'll quickly introduce another device which is not from GPD. And then we'll look at one of the devices, the last device from GPD, which has actually regressed in 2204, which I was surprised to learn. I had to go poking around in the Linux kernel source to figure out what was going on there. So I'll just explain what's going on with that device, and maybe we'll see if we can get it to go by using the age-old trick of not upgrading, or not upgrading much. So the other device I've got here, which is a bit similar, not very, but somewhat similar to this GPD device. This was one that I bought, so I didn't get an engineering sample for this. This was one I bought through, I can't remember if it was Kickstarter or Indiegogo. This is the Topjoy Falcon, and it can do the 2-in-1 thing and fold over, and it has a touch screen. It's slightly older device, but I really liked the keyboard on this one again because it was well spaced out and things were mostly in sensible places, although delete and backspace being inverted here and tab being in an unhelpful place, and the caps lock here, I mean, these things are frustrating. And this has got an optical trackpad and the same problems that we've seen where these are repurposed tablet displays, so they're all orientated this way by default, so everything needs rotating, the digitizers and the panels and the mode setting and the frame buffer and console fonts, everything needs rotating. So this one curiously has the same accelerometer in it for detecting the rotation of the device. So when I was working on the driver for this one to implement the automatic screen rotation, it turned out I was also able to test on this to actually have like a data set of 2 to determine whether or not my driver worked correctly. So I'm able to use both of these, and we can take a look at that driver very quickly. It's quite simple, and it's a break from tradition for the stream here because we are the purveyors of the finest shell scripts here. It's kind of a meme of the channel that everything's a shell script. Not everything is a shell script, but if I can write it in a shell script for the lols, we do. But this was a little bit different in that I actually wrote this in C, and it's the rotator. And it's been a while since I've started a project from scratch in C for a good long while, but this is it here. I found some reference code that I used. So we'll just take a look at how it works. So we've just got some constants here to work out orientation. and then effectively some arrays of what the names are that XR&R uses to determine what orientation the screen is in, and then these are the transformation matrices for the touch digitizers for each of those orientations. And then these are the devices that it should be rotating, and like I say, I'm working on figuring out why these are being inverted and not aligning correctly at the moment. I don't quite understand why this has regressed. So I need to figure that out. And these are the screen devices that it should rotate. So these are the internal panel names, and that's how these panel names are referenced using the mode setting driver or the Xorg Intel driver. So I can see some comments. Hello, welcome. What's this? Flight Sim Racing, is that right? Thank you. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. First time commenters and everyone that stopped by from the raid earlier. Thank you very much for stopping by. And then we've just got some constants for the mathematics to work out like the inertia and momentum in the rotation. So we have a function here to determine whether or not the orientation has changed. So this is just some simple transforms to work out if the axis has changed, and if it has changed, to what orientation has the accelerometer moved to. So then just a simple helper function to concatenate some strings together. And then this is for rotating the actual digitizers for the touch devices, so for the stylus and things of that nature. And we just call that here, and then we have for each of the screens doing a call to XR&R to dim the screen, rotate the display, and then fade the screen back in again. So that's really all it does. And then this just sits here and reads off the accelerometer sensor. That's the actual device. This function should be more than that. At the moment I've just hard coded the path because it's designed for a specific accelerometer, but I should probably, you know, flesh this out to actually properly enumerate the system and determine the different things. And because again this is an enablement specifically for the operating system that I work on, I've just made the assumption I don't care about Wayland at the moment, so we have a no-op if Wayland is the display server. And then this is just reading the values off the sensor and then feeding that into the method that says, you know, has the orientation changed. So that was a little bit of C programming from a few months ago, and I have a minor bug in here somewhere I need to figure out. So I'm not sure I'm going to power up the Falcon, Topjoy Falcon, because I know it all works, and I know it has exactly the same bug with the digitizer inversion as the other device, which I will get to fixing probably tomorrow evening, something like that. I think it's probably an hour or so's work just to identify where I've made a mistake. But that brings us to the last device from GPD, which surprised me in that it didn't work with 2204. So this is another one of their gaming devices, and of their gaming devices, my favorite one. So if we start by opening it up, it's a much larger device. It has a larger screen, but like the Win 2 Max, in fact, if we get the Win 2 Max by comparison, you can see the size difference. This was the last gaming device of theirs that we looked at. This was very much handheld and portable. You know, it's designed for on-the-go gaming. It's fantastic for emulators and retro gaming, which is what I tend to enjoy most. This is much bigger. It does have all the shoulder buttons on the back, and we've got the controller and a trackpad, so you can mouse and controller at the same time, unlike this one. The keyboard is proper, you know, it's a decent keyboard. And we have full-size Ethernet here, SD card for expansion, all the shoulder buttons, A, B, X, Y, 2 analog sticks and the D-pad. And this controller is significantly better, very clicky, very tactile. These have got slightly more resistance, although the range of movement is quite small. They're not excellent. And you've got start select and all of that stuff here. And then on the back we've also got full-size HDMI, 2 USB 3s and 2 USB-Cs. And I think one of them is Thunderbolt enabled, so you can actually plug an eGPU into this. And you can also toggle the joypad between controller and mouse capability as well. So this is a pretty full device, and it's also got a carriage port on the front, but it's quite hefty, and I've never used it as a handheld thing, because of its size. It's just not particularly comfortable to hold for extended periods. But what was curious about this one is when I first did the enablement for this one, the EDID, so the thing that detects the screen and the resolution, didn't function at all, and it would just bring up a corrupt image. And some clever soul worked out that they could dump the EDID from Windows and then force the kernel to use that EDID, which had been working for a couple of years and worked quite reliably. But with 2204 it didn't work. I brought up 2204 with that EDID workaround, and I just had a black screen, and I went looking around, and there is a partial fix in newer kernels to have a quirk for this device in order to detect the unusual memory placement of the EDID on this device. But it is only partial, so whilst it won't work with the EDID workaround, it will detect the display correctly, but then when it brings it up, it's actually corrupt. So I think this is going to be fixed in Linux kernel 5.18. So for the time being, what I'm doing is just generating a refreshed Ubuntu MATE 20.04 image for this, which does work. So this works up to 21.10, but it doesn't work with 22.04, the current LTS. So this one I'm keeping on 20.04 until probably, where are we now? When 22.10 releases in October, I anticipate that this should be properly supported without any EDID shenanigans required. Hello McPhail, lovely to see you. Interesting. So Flight Sim, what's this? Flight Sim Race Sim 88 says they made the switch from Windows to Linux late last year. Oh well, excellent. One more of us and one less of them. If you like a bit of Linux, you're among friends. You're in the right place. I hope to see you here. Definitely, as everything here is Linux related in some fashion. Even when we're doing Windows and Mac OS stuff, it's because we're hacking hypervisors and things like that in order to make those things work well under Linux. So let's have a look here. Have you upgraded yours? I was wondering. The replaceable. Oh, I guess that's a question for someone else in chat. Sorry, I'm jumping into a different conversation. And then McPhail says, what do you use to clean your screens? Impressively fingerprint free. I think actually what we're seeing here is it looks fingerprint free because of the camera. They are quite smeary, but I just use those lint-free cloths that you get with like glasses cleaners. I keep a couple of those to one side, and not very often, but occasionally I'll just give them a polish, and that gets all of the the fingerprint marks off them. Okay. So Seb says, just be very, very, Linux is very, very addictive. Yeah, it can be. I think it's not addictive, it's fun. If you like messing around with stuff, hardware or software, then Linux is a lot of fun. And the reason I use it is because I like to make stuff. And I'm going to give a tip to, like a potential future project. I've got one of these. So I haven't started working on this yet. But this is just fab. I love it. So this is an HDMI display. It's got a little kickstand on the back, and it can be VESA mounted. And there's the HDMI ports and power here. And it's 1920 by 480. And I want to mount this on the side of my monitor. So let's try and do that sort of like this, but imagine on the side of my monitor. And I want to put the Twitch chat on this so that I can have it not on the main screen in front of me, but I can glance at it and see it. So, and I was also thinking of maybe, you know, having it so I can move it on an arm and having it above the monitor, so just above my camera lens, so that when I'm recording webinars and things of that nature, I can put my, what's the word? What are those things called? Auto cue. My auto cue on it. Read off this, but of course I'll be looking slightly above the lens of the camera. So it should look like I'm looking into the eyes of the viewer. So that's an interesting little device I've got, and I'm, you know, thinking about potentially connecting it up to a Raspberry Pi and having all of that powered off by a separate device as well. So yeah, lots of Linuxy stuff, but before I get to this, I've got a whole bunch of retro game consoles that I'm going to be working on. So I need to finish up these devices, which I think I'll be done over the course of the weekend. The Ubuntu MATE 2204 images for the Raspberry Pi are just about finished, so I need to get those uploaded, and when that's all done, then we're going to move on to a lot of retro console stuff using things like this. So it's using these sorts of cases which have a Raspberry Pi inside, and enabling all of these additional switches and buttons and all the rest of it, and a whole new console experience for the home. So I've got things, these for PlayStation, for Commodore, for Spectrum, for Sega, all sorts of different cases and designs, and we're going to enable all of them. So you can just download an image for the retro case that you have for your Raspberry Pi, and it will just work out of the box. So let's have a look here. I see another question. I'm just looking for it. So chip something or other. Here it is. They say, did I miss the work on the Pocket 2? Things seems to work via a dist upgrade. So yeah, these are all of the devices over here. Let's get the game console out of the way. So here's the assorted Pockets. This is the 1. This is the 2. This is the Win 2. I think it's called the Win 2. This is the Micro PC. So there's a whole bunch of them. Most of these have been sent to me by GPD to do the hardware enablement in order to provide a Linux distribution for them that they put up for download on their website, and I also put on the Ubuntu MATE website. So over, I don't know, the last 5 or 6 years, I've been preparing images for these devices and updating them as each new release of Ubuntu MATE comes out. And while they mostly work out of the box, what I do is I take care of all of the tweaks and configuration changes that these need to correctly enable the power management, to correctly enable the audio devices, you know, there's the sound chips that correctly do the Wi-Fi, manage the screen rotation, digitize the rotation, all of those sorts of things. So it's an image you can download and just install, and it in most cases 99% is just done for you out of the box. At least everything that can be done is done out of the box. So that's what this stream was today, was looking back at some of these and updating them to Ubuntu MATE 2204. And we're about there. we've had a look at each of them, and you know, we were hooking up the the capture card and playing around with them and all the rest of it. I just need to grab my water up here. A bit thirsty. So, King Egypt says, please, can we see that monitor on? Can we see that monitor on? I'm just scanning around, looking at what's available. So there's an HDMI cable there. That's USB-C. So hang on, let's just move back here again. So your question is, can we see it on? Maybe. I don't know. What am I going to display on it? So let's think about how we're going to do this. I'm just thinking. So the obviously the easy thing to do is to like power the thing on. We can do that, but I'm thinking, how do we display something on it? That's what I was just considering, is how do we actually plug it into something, because I can't open up the back of the computer at the moment to get to the HDMI ports. So I think I might be able to power, let's find out. I might be able to power this off the USB on the front of the PC. So let's try that. Let's see if we can just power the device on. We'll just say turn it on. Maybe that doesn't provide enough juice. So without providing a higher power source, because I haven't looked at what the requirements are, but certainly what comes out the front of the PC, not enough to drive it. So not today, but it will definitely feature in a future live stream when I figure out how I'm going to take advantage of this, because like I say, I've got a couple of use cases for it. Yeah, I see there's a discussion kicking off about the relative merits of different versions of Windows in the chat as well. If I had to choose one, I'd go with 11. I mean, not being a Windows user, I don't know what the compatibility issues might be with that, but you know, as an infrequent Windows user, I prefer 11. So that one will come back another day. But like I say, next week, so I stream on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. Next week is hopefully going to be almost exclusively around Retro Home, which is my operating system for the Raspberry Pi to enable these different cases to get some retro gaming done. So that will be the focus of next week's stuff. So hopefully I've answered the questions. If there was a lot of chat activity earlier, I'm sorry if I missed anyone. Star Trek, you cheeky people, Star Trek. So I'm sorry if I missed any comments earlier on, but it got super busy. But thank you very much for those of you that came by in the raid and said hello and introduced yourself. I will go back. So, Star Ansible. Yes, that's the channel I'm going to go to. I can't believe he uses Linux. Don't just use Linux. I'm streaming with Linux as well. So something else I do here is I maintain a special build of OBS for Ubuntu. That's fully loaded with all of the stuff I need to do all of the different transitions, animations, and integrations with, channel points and what have you. You're welcome, King Egypt. It was a good question. I need to actually read the manual. I haven't actually read anything about it, so it might be that it just requires more amps in order to power it. Right, gosh, that was quite a blitz, wasn't it? A lot of stuff to cover there. Hopefully you found that interesting. We have a Discord, so I think I can do this stuff now. I think I set these things up. Can I do that? Yes, we can. So there it is in chat. So wimpysworld.io/discord. Got a couple of nearly 3,000 Linux nerds and enthusiasts there, users and developers. So if you've got any questions about any of this stuff, hop over there. We've got channels for each of the projects that we work on here, and some general chat for, you know, just passing the time of day or questions about Linux development in general. So yeah, stop on by, come and introduce yourself to the rest of the community. Thank you very much for the
Thank you
for the follow.
XGSX plane.
I appreciate that. So so Chip Keytor, I can't quite pronounce that properly. But hey Tommy, I'm sorry you're late. Shall I stick around for just a few more minutes, or shall I do it all again just for you? Okay. Chipka Terminator, I see. Right, got it. It looks like you're in the work offices. This is the lodge that I'm in now. So yeah, I rent some office space in another building, and I come here about 3 days a week, and I'm trying to do all of my streaming from here. I've got a slightly bigger desk. As you saw, I had loads of gubbins out earlier. It's still out, you know, it's now a complete mess, but I've got enough space here that I can actually do stuff like that. I can have 9 computers out and grab an HDMI screen at random and try and plug it in and turn it on. Doing that at home is not so easy, so this is a much better place for me to live stream, because it gives me the freedom to work on hardware and software projects pretty flexibly. And Tommy Lucas, I heard NixOS needs your help with regards to Mate. Mate. I don't know if it needs my help. I'm going to offer my help. I'm making notes of what I'm discovering with Nix as I sort of find my way, and I would like to contribute in some meaningful way for Mate on NixOS, and maybe in some other areas. But the other thing that I'm interested in looking at for Nix is OBS Studio, because if I do ever start using NixOS on a more permanent basis, there are certain things that I really need it to do, and I know all the fundamental stuff it just does really well, so it's more of the niche things, niche interests of my own, where I would be interested in contributing. I'm glad you think it looks professional. I'm pretty happy with it. It's a bit Heath Robinson, like these blue lights behind me. Shall I show you how I've done that? I got blue LEDs with magnets on the back that are that's the sound of them magnetizing to the legs of the desk in order to create the blue. No, I've no idea what the other people who work here think about all of this when I come in and turn all these blue lights on and what have you, but whatever. They never say anything about it when I'm making teas and coffees with them. So OBS works fine in NixOS. I'm sure it does work fine, but there's a bunch of additional plugins and features and things like that that I would not just want but need, and last I looked, those weren't all available, so that's the sort of thing that I'd be looking at. And also I heard from my friend and now colleague, he goes by Big Pod in here, but his name's Primosh. He had some difficulty with the NVIDIA. In fact, you've noticed it. I've just seen you've mentioned it in chat. So he ran into some difficulty with NVIDIA. So that's obviously something that I'm going to look at, because I haven't looked at that yet. I've been testing in VMs. So I've earmarked my laptop to be my actual device that I experiment with, and that does have hybrid graphics, so I can experiment with the NVIDIA stuff there. But I use NVIDIA for everything because it's got some very useful features that I value. So yeah, if that doesn't work, I'd be interested in looking at that and helping there. And I've also been speaking to Graham as well. So Graham is probably going to come on here, probably going to come on the Slim DevOps stream, probably going to come on the Linux Downtime podcast as well. So there's going to be a bunch of Nix things that I'm going to be getting involved in. And Graham's going to be my spirit guide. Right, okay. Well, so what was this? Like Sim says, the first... What was this? The first Linux distro I tried was Linux Mint, and now I use Pop OS 2204, but with KDE Plasma. They don't ship a version with KDE, so you've installed that yourself, I assume. If you like KDE, maybe give KDE Neon a go. It's probably a good idea. Someone's following. I'm not seeing the appropriate notification, but thank you, whoever that was. Thank you for that. There we go. Now we find out.
Thank you for the follow, Nocturnal Astro.
Nocturnal Astro. I do love some of these usernames. Fantastic. Thanks very much for that. Thanks for stopping by, and thanks for joining the stream. Well, it's almost midday. This stream has overrun slightly. This has been 2 hours, but we did have some fun there, and we looked at a bunch of stuff. Thank you to everyone that stopped by. Thank you very much to all of my old friends that are returning back. I've just picked up streaming again after a 3-month hiatus. It's been lovely to know that I've not been forgotten and that you've stopped by and said hello, and wonderful that there are so many new people that are discovering our community here. So thank you very much for stopping by and introducing yourselves. I hope that we'll see you again in the future. And like I say, I stream on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, and on Thursday evenings over on Slim DevOps. So if you're at all interested in container technology, head over to twitch.tv/slimdevops, give that a follow. We did one yesterday. I did a big breakdown on like best security practices for production ready containers. So practical tips you can start using today to make your containers smaller, faster and more secure. So that's what's going on. So thanks very much everyone for stopping by. I hope to see you on Monday, if not sooner. Occasionally I do an ad hoc stream at the weekend, depending on what the family stuff is. My daughter's suggesting she wants to get into streaming, so you never know. If we get sign off from my wife, maybe my daughter will be coming on to help me with some of this retro gaming stuff. I need a good quality beta tester for all of those games that need playing. Anyway, thanks for stopping by everyone. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye bye for now. Bother.